Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Fello's Thinking Differently podcast. I am your host, Alex Ficcari, and today we'll be talking about Fello's 2Gen initiatives. Fello's 2Gen approach focuses on services where children and adults with disabilities are integrated within the family. This family-centered approach allows Fellow to not only support people with disabilities, but also identify their family's needs and goals, acknowledging that the two are interconnected. This approach ensures meaningful services and maximizes long-term impact for children and adults with their disabilities, their families, and their communities. Joining me here today is Jessica Sauers, Director of 2Gen Initiatives at Fellow, to share more about these incredible programs. Jessica, thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Jessica, I want to say there's so many great people at Fellow here, and we love learning more about them. And I want to take a moment to learn a little bit more about you. And if I'm not mistaken, you have been with Fellow for over 26 years.
Yep. And
you've had a lot of titles, and you've done a lot of great programs and initiatives. You've supported and led everything from Fellow's programs and operations and housing divisions. And I would say that's all prepared you for your current role here that you took on in 2022 as the Director of 2Gen Initiatives.
Yep.
Okay, great. And so I guess what I'm kind of curious about, and that's given you a great vantage point to see all aspects of what we're doing and this great deeper understanding of the organization, how it all interrelates, which leads me to our question we ask everybody is, why is this so important for us to think differently here at Fellow, and how do you do it every day?
Yeah, so I think the people that we support, nobody has the same needs or wants in their life. And so in order for us to be person-centered, we really need to look at the person and figure out what it is that they want for their life.
Okay, great. And could you maybe share with a little bit about the work that you do now as the Director of the 2Gen Services? What do those services include?
Yeah, so it's really encompassing 3 different programs, our community supports, children, youth, and their families, and entitlements.
Okay, excellent. And that sounds like it has an array of services all underneath there. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the breakdown of the meaning of 2Gen initiatives and specifically to that point of what's the philosophy behind the whole thing?
Yeah, so 2Gen is really about looking at the family as a whole.
Okay.
So what does not only the child need, but also the family members within the home, and what resources or supports do they need to be able to grow?
Okay, great. And so can you maybe talk a little bit about why is it so important to take a look at the whole family, or this multi-generational support for these services? And what's that interconnection between all the roles of the people?
Yeah, so with 2Gen, we are looking at the whole family. We're looking at the supports and services that they might need to help their child grow. And so we want those services and supports to follow them into their adult life.
Is something like the 2Gen initiative unique to Fellow, or are there other programs out there that offer this?
No, I don't know of another agency that really provides supports like we do to the whole family unit. Our Children, Youth, and Their Families program specifically is funded through fundraising and events. So we really rely heavily on our community partners to help run that program.
All right. And so when you talk, now that we're talking really about the children, the youth, and their families, this program, can you maybe give us a little bit of these? You mentioned these services at a young age, right? And so as you look at that, they're getting exposed to this world of services. And the question now is for me is, what are those services Fellow provides the children and the youth specifically?
Yeah, so we really have 4 major programs. We have our family navigation, which includes information and referral services.
Okay.
We have Project Learn Leadership Academy, Family Fund, and Holiday Giving.
Okay. And why is it so important to start these at such an early age? So we're talking children, right? A young age. Why is it so important?
Yeah, so we really want to be there as a support for the family, get them all the supports and services that the child might need so that they can live a more independent life.
Okay, great. And now there's also this idea of when you start with family navigation, right? And the information referral. You're not just talking about information, right? You it sounds like you're walking with these families side by side, preparing them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we really are. So everything starts with a conversation. We are either speaking to them over the phone or in person, whatever makes them more comfortable. You know, sometimes people are coming to our office. Sometimes we are meeting them at their home or a coffee shop or whatever that might look like, so that we can build that relationship with the family and that trust. And, we are able to provide them resources and other things within the community.
That's great. Can you maybe talk about some of the challenges that families face that people might not always know about or realize that these families are struggling with? And specifically, how does Fellow help carry that weight of that burden?
Yeah, so a lot of the therapies and camps or medical equipment that these children need are not covered by insurance. And so a lot of times the families are having to come out of pocket to pay for those things, which can be very pricey. So sometimes, it's either that they can pay their monthly bills or they can send their child to therapy. So the family fund specifically helps with some of that financial burden.
Yeah, that's the choices we don't want to have to necessarily make those.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
Now, you also mentioned Project Learn and Project Learn Leadership Academy. And this also kind of struck a chord for me because my children have IEPs, and now we're talking about Fellow offering support for IEPs, 504 programs, plans. Can you maybe talk a little bit about those programs and who's benefiting from those?
Yeah, so I think with Project Learn and Project Learn Leadership Academy, both, it's about empowerment. So with Project Learn, we are working with the parents of the child. So we have an advocate that we use, and they are helping the parent to understand what the services are in the IEP. Are they the right services? Are they getting everything that they need? Does the plan cover what the child's needs are?
So you're giving them the ability to advocate for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the parent then so we're meeting with them, we're going to meetings with them with the school systems. And then, it's not just us driving that, we are helping the parent to become a better advocate for their child.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then with Project Learn Leadership Academy, we're going into middle schools and we're going into high schools. We partner with the school system, and we are really teaching the child how to become a better advocate for themselves. Wow. So they are creating vision boards and presentations, and they're actually looking through their IEP so that they know the services that they're supposed to be provided. Yeah. So at the end, they come out with a presentation that they can use at their own IEP to be their own advocate.
Okay. So children, families, they're all very unique. And to avoid Fellow going from some sort of checklist methodology to solve problems, how do you provide that individual service?
Yeah, it is very individualized. So we are really just having a conversation with the family and just trying to figure out what it is that we can assist with. We're really meeting the family where they are, both emotionally and physically. Okay,
that's great. Now, you had also mentioned some other programs, which I was kind of intrigued by, and I've heard of some of these as well. When you're speaking about the Family Fund and also holiday giving. Let's talk about the Family Fund for a moment. How does that program assist families? And, is it supporting with things that they can't afford? Or, what is the approach Fellow takes with this program?
Yeah, so the Family Fund is really financial assistance for items that the child may need or things that the child may need in their life. So a lot of times that is therapies or camp. It could be medical equipment. A lot of these things are not covered by insurance already. And so the family really, it could put a burden on them. So by using the Family Fund, they're applying for funds, and they can then use those funds to help pay for those services. Okay, so it sounds like it's a broader spectrum of a vehicle that can support many different needs. It doesn't have to fit in one particular box. Yeah, exactly. And this year, we were able to help 96 families. And it was a total of $113,000. Yeah. Wow. So it's huge. That is huge. Yeah. Now, and how does that differ from the holiday giving? So holiday giving, we are supporting children with disabilities and their siblings. So they would come up with a wish list, and we are partnering with outside community donors or businesses to purchase those gifts. Okay. And then we are also having a grocery store gift card that they can use for a holiday meal. So that really encompasses, supports for the whole family. Yeah, and what I love about that is everything you've described so far from the very beginning onset, it is children, youth, and families, right? Yeah. It's this whole multiple generation thing we've been talking about. So I love to hear that it's not just something you're saying, it's something you're doing. That's great. So we've been talking a lot about
children, families. Now let's talk a little bit more about the families and the communities, right? So there is a shift that happens, and I'm really curious about what is Fello doing to support people as they go out into the communities, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so with the community supports or personal supports, we're really supporting the person as a whole. So, it's all about the person. They're establishing their own schedule. They're talking to their staff about the activities they want to participate in. All the services are really generated based upon what the person
Wow. So
wants.
all those advocacies that they learned and through the programs before continue on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's great. When we're talking about these services and the individual aspects that you have to provide, I would assume there's a lot of flexibility that's needed in this. Could you maybe talk a little bit about when you think about this personal support or community support, how does it tie into all the different aspects of life?
With personal supports, we can really help with any aspect of the person's life. So the only thing we can't help with is anything employment related, but
Sure.
Anything else, doctor's appointments, community activities, budget management, cooking, healthy cooking or meal planning. We can really help anyone with anything that they might need assistance with. We have people who receive as little as like 5 hours a week of supports, all the way up to 82 hours a week of supports.
Oh, wow.
It's really dependent upon their need and what they want their schedule to look like.
And again, that really shows that flexibility of the program, right?
Exactly.
For meeting people where they're at. I know it's in the name, but could you maybe discuss how Fello actually goes about ensuring that community supports are really about supporting people that are fully involved or out there in their communities?
Yeah, so each year the person has a person-centered plan and they establish goals that they would like to work on for that year.
Okay.
A lot of times that is community involvement or becoming more independent in their lives. And so their staff is really there to help them reach that goal. So, it might be that they are volunteering in the community. It could be that they are exploring, different activities in the community or joining groups or different.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really about, helping the staff is there to help them kind of get commute.
Is there a particular example where there's somebody who's been able to truly maximize the community support services and that you can maybe share for the audience?
Yeah, so there's a young guy that we support who lives at home with his family.
Okay.
Before we started services, he was very much to himself, right? So he would play video games all the time, wouldn't leave his room. So he has a staff that has been with him for a while now.
Okay.
When the staff started, he just opened up. He started, they were going to movies, they were going camping, they were going to concerts.
Right.
And he really blossomed.
Wow.
He at first was only funded for minimal hours. And so he got sick of having to kind of watch the clock so that he didn't go over his hours. So he actually advocated for himself,
Nice.
brought his team together and asked for additional hours so that him and his staff could continue
Wow.
his growth in the community.
Yeah, that is really rewarding. It really comes full circle from the beginning. That's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
So let's talk. This has all been excellent, but let's talk about something else now. Let's talk about entitlements, right? In this last segment of our interview here today, I also kind of want to understand it. You can talk about the entitlements which fall under the 2Gen initiatives, and to me, this means it's one of the support that Fellows provides that people might not know much about. So, can you maybe enlighten us when we talk about entitlements such as SNAP or EBT or the ABLE accounts or even Social Security, right? At the end, they have different aspects that, the 2Gen initiative could probably support. Could you maybe dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think with entitlements, it's really not, it affects everyone, right? So it doesn't matter what age you are, entitlements is touching everyone. So, whether we are helping to manage a person's benefits or if we're just partnering with our family navigator to help a family, support a family, whether it's with questions or applications, it's really kind of helping everyone.
Yeah, so you're helping them navigate through that entire system and all the programs.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, is the support that Fellow provides for this is it the general community or is it people that are enrolled in the services?
So I would say the management of benefits is mainly for people that are enrolled in our services. But we do partner with our Children, Youth, and Their Families program. And we are working with the Family Navigator to help answer questions or fill out applications so that the family unit is also supported.
So what is the gap that Fellow is filling for folks by providing this support?
So I think we are helping provide that information for the person supporter or for the family.
Okay.
We are kind of had that expertise that the family might not have,
Sure.
and so helping them kind of navigate that system. We're also helping to provide some independence. So when we're managing someone's benefits, we're making sure that their bills get paid and that they have the money that they need to buy the things that they need to buy. Helping them become more independent in the community.
So as I think about all these different entitlements that are available, have you seen from your vantage point some of the entitlements that are underutilized or sometimes not often included for people?
Yeah, I would definitely say when talking with families,
Sure.
we will mention ABLE accounts, and a lot of times families have no idea what that is. And so, a lot of the entitlements that people receive, such as Social Security or Medicaid, have asset limits. And so,
Sure.
That doesn't really work well when sometimes you're paying for a lot of things out of pocket, such as therapies or equipment or whatever that may look like. So ABLE accounts help you save those funds to be able to purchase those items that you need later on down the line and also protect your benefits.
Okay, well, you're like a wealth of information here. So I have to ask, is there with your knowledge of the landscape here, are there any pro tips or tricks that you maybe can recommend to a family to better, help navigate these waters?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is really to apply early.
Okay.
There's lots of wait lists, and sometimes things take a lot of time to process. So, apply for services early and reach out to our Family Navigator for assistance if they need help with those applications or if they have questions.
All right.
We're here to help.
That's great. As we start closing up here, Jessica, I think it would be great to ask you just one last more question, and I promise it'll be done for today. But could you maybe, as you think about all the different services under 2Gen initiatives, is there one moment or story that reminds you of why all this matters and why it works?
Yeah, so this is actually a recent story. We have a lady that we support who has lived in her apartment for 38 years. And
Wow.
we have supported her just about that whole time. So recently her health has started to decline, and she had a need for round-the-clock support.
Wow.
So she was very adamant that she was not leaving her apartment. So we had to work very closely with Living Options and Services to kind of navigate what that's going to look like for her. And so we were able to request 24-hour support within her own apartment so that she could continue to live there and thrive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really shows the person-centeredness that we are thriving for.
I don't think there's a better example. So thank you very much. And I want to thank you for being a guest because you were a great guest. And I definitely hope all of you have enjoyed this episode of Thinking Differently. And we hope you tune in again. And once again, I'm your host, Alex Ficari. See you next time.